Hey guys, I wanted to go over a little bit here on Revelation 9. And I wanted to show you guys something from before we get started in Ellen White. I found this. Yeah, let me read this right here. This is from, you know what, I'm going to have to find out the resource for it later. I think it was in the Review and Herald. I can't remember. But here's what it says. The trumpet itself is a symbol of war, and this fact alone is a suggestion that the seven trumpets announce wars. And as the Roman power was the center of all, they would have to announce wars beginning with Rome. The first four trumpets give the fall of the Western Empire of Rome. This is what I've been learning. And then the fifth and sixth trumpets give the fall of the Eastern Empire of Rome. And we're going to go over those two trumpets here in this video. We're going to look at a couple things. And the seventh trumpet gives the fall of all nations and of the world itself. So the seventh trumpet, that's the end of the world. That's when Jesus comes back after the seventh trumpet is done. Anyone reading the eighth, well, it says right here, and the seventh trumpet gives the... Okay, anyone reading the 8th and ninth chapters of Revelation together with Revelation 11 verses 15 to 19, and that's talking about there when the temple was open in heaven in 1844 and the Ark of the Covenant was seen. I think it's speaking of the 1844 judgment. But then it says, and also the 16th chapter of Revelation, verses 18 and 20. Maybe we'll look at them here in this video. But I just wanted to show you guys that that's what Ellen White, if this is correct, and she actually did write this, because I know this was, I believe, published after her death. So I'm gonna have to get the facts on that straight, because I'm a little confused on that. But notice the end part right here. It says that the best exposition of the first six of the seven trumpets is Gibbon's Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. In its descriptions of the careers of the Goths, the Vandals, the Huns, the Turks, and the Mohammedan Arabs. So, anyways, I just wanted to show you guys that the seven trumpets have to do with war, and it had to do with carving up the Roman Empire, and then the seventh one is ultimately going to be carving up the entire world. Okay, so let me check out. I'm going to read this, and I'm going to explain as far as I understand it. And like I said, this may not be the absolute truth, but this is how I know it so far, and I am studying this out to verify, to make sure it's correct. So let's look here. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven. Okay. Now, before we even read, guys, remember in Revelation 8, we talked about the first four trumpets, and that took us up to the year 476 AD, to the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Okay. So this fifth and sixth trumpet, this is going to be focused on the eastern part of the Roman Empire. Okay. All right, so then a star fell from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. Not sure what that... I know the bottomless pit, a lot of times, it's when it's speaking about the earth, it'll use that term. And if you look at bottomless, it's the word abusos, like the abyss. I think in Genesis 1:1, when God is describing creating the earth, when it was void and empty, it was an abyss. So that could just mean the earth, but I'm not positive on that first verse there. Okay, and he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, and the smoke of a great furnace. Smoke... In Bible prophecy, what I've noticed, smoke is like pollution. Okay, it would be somebody that's preaching a false message out into the air. Their words, that would look like smoke to God. To us, it's invisible. But to God and probably the angels, they can see our words go out into the air, and they must look like smoke, something like that. But smoke would be pollution, so this would be a false gospel that's being preached. Okay. As the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. Now notice how the sun and the air were darkened because of the smoke. Now if I'm right on this, and smoke means pollution, it means a false preaching of a false gospel, then the sun and the air would be darkened. The sun would be like the sun, God's light, the light of the gospel, the true gospel. That would be darkened. In the air would represent people preaching the gospel, people talking with words, talking about the Bible. Okay, that would be the air. That was darkened. They were darkened because these people that you're going to notice in this trumpet, they're preaching a false message to the earth. Okay, they're not talking about the gospel of Jesus Christ in the Bible. They're talking about something else. Okay, a new religion is coming on the scene. Okay, this was happening in the 7th century is when this was occurring. Let's look at verse 3. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. Now, from everything that I've studied and read up to this point, the best way I would describe the smoke of the locusts would be their preaching, their false words. The locusts themselves, and I'm not trying to cause any kind of hate speech. I'm only looking at history in the Bible, and I'm letting it tell me what it is. So I'm just reporting on the things that I'm learning. Now, I could be messed up in my understanding, but that's why I'm studying to go through everything so I can see what the Bible really is telling us. Okay. But if you look here, the locusts, from my understanding, it's Muslims, and I think of a mosque, and that's where all the locusts would swarm together in a mosque, and they would preach a false gospel. So anytime you see locusts, think Muslims. That's how I've understood this. Okay, and upon the earth unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. You know what scorpions do? They sting people with their tails. Okay, and you're going to notice when you're speaking about a tail, you're speaking about a false prophet. Now, this is how Satan drew 1/3 of the stars, the angels of heaven, out of heaven by his tail. A tail represents a false prophet. It represents somebody who's a talebearer, who tells lies and makes up stories. Okay, that would be the Muslim religion. Okay, so that's where my understanding of the scorpion. Verse 4, and it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree. Tree would be people, but only those men who have not the seal of God in their foreheads. So anybody that did not have the seal of God was open to the Muslims going after, to hurt and to torture and to preach this false gospel and make conversions of people. And you look at this too, the Muslim, starting in the 7th century, the Muslims went out and they started converting people in their areas where they lived over there in Turkey and other parts of the world. And where once Christianity was ruling, now people were being converted into Muslims. So, and it grew rapidly, just as it's growing today, very rapidly. Let's look at verse 5. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. Remember that 5 months. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. Okay, the 5 months I'm going to tell you in a second, but the scorpion, when he strikes a man, he strikes him with his tail. And as I mentioned earlier, I understand that to be a false prophet. Anytime you see a scorpion striking a man, You're seeing them speaking words out of their mouth that they're making up stories. They're telling they're a tale bearer, just like Lucifer was, and it's a false gospel being preached, and it's hurting men. Okay, now the 5 months here that's mentioned is 5 months prophetically. If you take a day for a year, if a day in Bible prophecy equals 1 year, which was always the Protestant view on prophecy, many people have changed. They went with the Jesuit influenced preterism and futurism, but those are Jesuit Catholic teachings. If you look at the predominant biblical interpretation, if you will, up until the 1800s, it was historicism. So that's the one that I use. So the 5 months is going to. This was in the year 1299. So it went from 1299 and it stretched all the way to 1449. It was July 27th of 1299 to July 27th of 1449. Now what happened was in 1299, this is when Othman came on the scene. He was the leader of the Arabs. And I'm not an expert in this. This is just what I've kind of been learning. But to my knowledge, he was a leader of the Arabs, and his name was Othman. Out of his name, that's where the Ottoman Empire comes from. It comes from the name Othman. Okay, so the Ottoman Empire was changed, and now they were called the Ottoman Turks. So they kind of went from the Arabs and the Saracens. They kind of transferred their title of the Ottoman Turks. I don't know a lot about it. I just know that that's what it was. We can look through history if we want to study these things, and we can look at them more. So the 5 months was the Ottoman Turks, and they're the ones that ended the Eastern Empire. When you look at it, Constantinople fell, and the wall fell in 1453, but something happened July 27th, 1449, and I think it was the ruler in Constantinople would not take the throne unless he got permission by the Turks. They were the leaders of the Turks, the generals, or like the leaders of the Turks. They were called sultans. Now there was 4 great sultans, I believe, at that time. But anyways, the Constantinople, the leader of the Eastern Empire, would not take the throne unless the Sultan Turks would agree to it. They were scared of him. So whatever happened on July 27th, 1449, that was this 5-month period that the Bible's talking about here. Okay? Now the wall did not fall until 1453, but something happened July 27th, 1449. I myself need to look into this a lot deeper. So, all right, let's continue verse 6. And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. That verse makes me think of 2 things. It makes me think people being tortured, and it makes me think of things like that. But you got to remember, this is going on in this 150-year period. So no man's living 150 years. So what I think this could be is a group of people for that 150 years. They were being tortured. But what I also think of too, and I don't know what the Ottoman Turks did to people during this 150 years. I have not researched that part yet. But it also makes me think of men, they're seeking to die. To like think about the Bible. Jesus, we're supposed to die to self daily, sacrifice. And we're supposed to deny our lusts and desires of our heart and of the flesh. We're supposed to die. So men are seeking to die, okay? But they're not dying. Death is fleeing from them because they don't know the Christian Bible anymore. All this Muslim faith is going on. People are being converted. Nobody knows how to die to self anymore. That's what I think when I read that verse. So, and I could be totally off on that. But let's look at 7. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle. and on their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men. And they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. Now, let me explain this. This is my take on this. If you look at the shapes of the locusts, they were like horses prepared unto battle. The Turks were famous for taking their horses into battle. Okay, so that fits there. And on their heads were crowns like gold. I know the Turks back then during that time, they wore yellow-colored, gold-colored turbans on their head, which in vision would have looked like a crown. You know what I mean? Maybe that fits there. That could very well fit. And then it says, in their faces were as the faces of men, because they were men. They were men on horsebacks wearing yellow turbans. They were the Ottoman Turks. Okay? And another thing too, the Ottoman Turks and the Nation of Islam itself, they're the children of Ishmael. Back when Abraham, he was Abraham's firstborn son, but he was no longer recognized as Abraham's son because he was going to die. Like he doesn't get to inherit the kingdom of heaven. So that's why only Isaac was seen as his only beloved son, because Isaac is saved. Ishmael's not going to be in heaven. He's not going to be saved. So that's why to Abraham he's only got one son, because the other son's not going to make it. But anyways, Ishmael got kicked out because he was going to kill Isaac, and Sarah was causing a lot of problems. So they kicked Ishmael out, and his mother Hagar, she was the Egyptian bondwoman, they had to flee. So they grew up in the wilderness and the deserts of Saudi Arabia. This is where they were. And Ishmael grew up to be an archer, I believe. But this is the origin of the Nation of Islam. This is where it comes from. I just think that's incredible. I mean, they've been around that long. So anytime you see Islam and anything to do with the Ottoman Turks and the Arabs, I mean, these are the children of Ishmael. Like if we look at 9/11, when the terror attacks were happening in 2001, those were the children of Ishmael wreaking havoc on the world. Those were huge signs that was letting us know that God was coming soon, that Jesus was coming very soon. And the churches are supposed to be telling us these things. Because if these last three trumpets all have to do with Islam, well then those are significant events. This war on terror that America and the whole world's been fighting the last 20 years, all that's prophecy. And I haven't heard anybody say these things to any of us. So maybe you guys have, but nobody's ever told me those things. I mean, the churches are supposed to be warning us. So that's what I see in verse 7. Now, if we look at verse 8, I think this is key. You notice how it says they had the hair of women? I think maybe why God says that here, why they had the hair of women. Because think about it, it'd be a man riding a horse, so a man's riding a beast, but it's got the hair of a woman. So you have a woman riding a beast. Well, anybody that studies the Bible knows that a woman riding a beast, that is a union of church and state. Okay? And I looked it up, and I'm pretty sure the Nation of Islam, they consider themselves a church-state union. It's incredible. So I think that's why God has it listed here. They had the hair of women, just so we can know it's a union of church and state. I thought that's pretty cool. And then look at this here. And then their teeth were as the teeth of lions. I don't know where this is at in the Bible. I'd have to look it up. But anytime you see, if it's got the teeth of a lion, obviously then it would have the mouth of a lion. Okay? And if it's got the mouth of a lion, just logically, it's going to roar like a lion, right? Well, I just learned this recently, that when the Lion of the tribe of Judah, which is Christ, I believe it's Christ, it could be God the Father, I'm a little confused on that. I'm still working out a lot of details, you guys. But the mouth of a lion, if the Lion of the tribe of Judah roars, and when he roars, somebody on earth is prophesying. That's what that means. So like when Ellen White was prophesying from 1844 all the way to 1915, when she was given 2,000 visions, During that time, the lion of the tribe of Judah was roaring, and somebody on the earth was prophesying. Isn't that cool? So this is telling us, guys, if this is correct, that this is talking about a false lion that's roaring, and that somebody on the earth would be prophesying. Well, lo and behold, you guys, we go from 606 AD to 610. We got a guy by the name of Muhammad, or Mohammed, that comes on the scene, and he's the founder of Islam, basically. He's a false prophet that marries a woman by the name, I think her name was Hadija. And of all things, she was a Roman Catholic princess, and one of their traveling companions that inspired Muhammad greatly. I think. I mean, I'm going to have to look this stuff up. I could be wrong on that, but I think his name was Morocco. But he's the one that inspired Muhammad, from my understanding, that he was having visions from Gabriel. Okay, then that's when Muhammad started the Islam religion. So this would be a false prophet right here in verse 8. That's just incredible, the more you think about that, if that's correct. I was shocked when I was learning that, and I couldn't believe that I was figuring that out. So we got a false prophet, Muhammad. That fits. Let me look at verse 9. And they had breastplates, as it were breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. Okay, the great horse armies of the Ottoman Turks. Verse 10. And they had tails like unto scorpions. Now remember the tails and scorpions, guys. Anytime we see that, we're thinking false prophets, tail bearers, like people that are telling lies to people, a false gospel. Okay, that's what that's what I see there. And there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. That 5 months is equal to 150 biblical years. Okay. And remember, that's July 27th of 1299 to July 27th of 1449. Okay. Verse 11. They had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. Now, if you look up these words Abaddon and Apollyon, Abaddon means destruction. And if you look up the Apollyon, it means destroyer. So you got destroyer, death, destruction. The character of these people, all they're going to care about is death and destruction. This is describing Islam. Okay. They had a king over them. Right there, that's telling of the bottomless pit. So their king, behind the scenes, it's Lucifer, obviously. He's the origin of this stuff. But the other king, I believe they're talking about, if this is talking about the 150-year period, because Muhammad would have been the first king from an earthly perspective, but Othman was the king that started the Ottoman Empire. He's the one that started this 150-year period. But I want to show you guys something. I think this is probably speaking about Muhammad, because look, notice how it says that it describes his name in the Hebrew tongue and in the Greek tongue. Why do you think it says that? It's telling us that it's in Hebrew and Greek. Maybe you guys knew this or caught this, but I didn't catch this until a couple weeks ago. You guys think about this for a second. The Old Testament is written in Hebrew. The New Testament is written in Greek. Is this verse telling us here that they're going to have their own version of the Bible, a false Bible? That's what I'm getting out of this. A Hebrew tongue and a Greek tongue. This is telling us that they're going to, and lo and behold, the Muslims, Nation of Islam, they have the Quran, their own version of the Holy Bible. Isn't that incredible? Yeah, I didn't even realize that until recently. I thought that was really cool. All right, one woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter. Okay, so that verse right there, that's bringing us up to the year July, or the date of July 27th, 1449. Okay? Now let's look at the sixth angel. The sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar, which is before God. So this is before 1844 because they're at the altar. Okay. Saying to the sixth angel, which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. Some huge clues right here, guys. Anytime you say loose the four angels, from what I've seen, they are the four main military sections of the Euphrates River over there in the Ottoman Empire. It would be Baghdad is one of them, Aleppo is one, Damascus is one, and the other one is Konya or Konya. Probably not pronouncing that right, but they're the four great military zones over there along the Euphrates River. So this is speaking about the Ottoman Empire. You guys, this verse right here, the sixth trumpet. Loose the four angels, it's loose the armies of the Ottoman Empire is what this is talking about. And that whole empire is right along the Euphrates River. This is where Babylon was. Okay, this was where probably the Tower of Babel, if you go back far enough. This is where it all was happening. Okay, and the four angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year for to slay a third part of men. This is intense, guys, but check this out. The four angels that were loosed, this is the Ottoman Empire. They were loosed. Notice how it says an hour, a day, a month, and a year. Okay? Prophetically, if you look at if a day is equal to a year, if you add this all up, I'm going to show you this. If you take 1 hour, well, let's start with 1 month or 1 year. 1 year is 360 days. Well, prophetic terms, 360 days would be 360 years. Okay? Now, if you take a month is how long? A biblical month is 30 days. Okay? 30 days would be 30 years. So you'd have 360 and you would have 30. That equals 390. Okay? If you take a day is 1 day. Well, a day would be 1 year. So then that would bring us up to 391 years. Now an hour, basically it's 1/24th of a year. 1 hour equals 15 days. Okay. So you got 391 years and 15 days. They were loosed. Okay. Now, guys, this is incredible. But if you go from July 27th of 1449, if you go forward 391 years and 15 days, you come to the date August 11th, 1840. Do you guys know what happened on that day? Oh man, on that very day, in the Millerite movement back in the late 1830s and early 40s, they talked about this prophecy and they said that the Ottoman Empire was going to fall in 1840 on August 11th. And they were correct. And this gave great power to the Seventh-day Advent movement back then, because people saw that in fact the Bible is that a day is equal to a year in prophecy. If you guys want to research that, it's really, really cool. So during that time, they killed a third part of men. That I'm guessing, I'm not sure on this. A third part of men during those 391 years probably died in warfare. I don't know what that means. But it says the number of the army of horsemen was 200,000. And I heard the number of them. Now, is that 200 million? I'm not sure how you would multiply that, but possibly could be all the soldiers during those 391 years. That's all I got on that. Let's continue in verse 17. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire and of jacinth and brimstone. The heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouth issued fire and smoke and brimstone. Okay, the first part of that, the jacinth and the fire, and those were the colors of the Ottoman Turks. But look at the end of that verse, guys. Out of their mouths issued fire, smoke, and brimstone. It is describing gunpowder and guns, guys, right here in that verse. The Ottoman Turks, I believe they were the first people to shoot guns from horseback in war. Okay, so the Bible's telling us that the Ottoman Turks are going to use guns in their battles, these weapons that we're going to issue out of their mouth fire, smoke, and brimstone. Oh, that's awesome. That's incredible. Okay, verse 18. By these three was a third part of men killed, by the fire, by the smoke, and the brimstone. So it's telling us that a third part of the men were killed by the guns. Okay? And bombs they may have had too. I'm not sure all what they had, which issued out of their mouth. So maybe during that 391 years, maybe this is where a third of men were killed during that time. A third of the men that were in the wars. Verse 19, for their power is in their mouth and in their tails. For their tails were like unto serpents, and had heads, and with them they do hurt. You guys see that? Their tails were like serpents. First they were like scorpions, and now they're compared to serpents, because they're deceiving people. This is the Muslim religion. They are deceiving people with this false talebearer, this gospel that's false. It's deceiving people. Oh, that's incredible that the Bible speaks about these things. Okay. And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of the works of their hands, that they should not worship devils and idols of gold, silver, brass, stone, and of wood, which neither can see, nor hear, nor walk. Neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts. Okay, so this is all bringing us up to the year, as I said, 1840. Okay, that's when the sixth trumpet finished sounding on August 11th, 1840. And then the seventh trumpet began to blow. If I am not mistaken, it began to blow in 1844. That's when the investigative judgment started. So anyways, that's it for this chapter. I just wanted to kind of touch base on those two trumpets. And like I said in that thing I showed you guys earlier, I'm going to have to find out where this quote's from. But let me read this to you one more time. The first four trumpets give the fall of the Western Empire of Rome. The fifth and sixth trumpets give the fall of the Eastern Empire of Rome, which we just covered. The last two videos we covered the first six trumpets. The seventh trumpet gives the fall of the whole world. Okay, that's the one we're in right now. And Islam is going to play a big part. Okay, they played a big part in the fifth and the sixth. And remember, it's the three woe trumpets. Okay, and they're all Islam. So when we see 911, the building, the Twin Towers falling, those were all in this war on terror, guys. This was all a huge sign to letting us know that Jesus is getting ready to come back. Okay, the whole world, we got to be warning people. These are huge signs. So as I go through and I figure out all this out, I'm going to be making as many videos as I can. So I'm starting to lose my voice, but but that's it, guys, for this video. I will talk about the seventh. I don't know a lot about the seventh trumpet, but I'm just going to make a video and just talk about a few things. If you guys have anything else that I'm missing, or if I'm wrong on something, put a comment in the section or get a hold of me, and let's talk about these things so we can get all this truth, so we can be ready for when Jesus gets back. So, all right, thank you guys, and I will talk to you guys later.